is a lot to go over tonight. Let's do this. You guys have been very busy. This video highlight is brought to you by our Wall of Famers who make it possible for me to carve time out of my very busy real life schedule and do what it is that I love to do. Be with you. Thank you. I don't know. I'm getting triggered reading this title right now. First off, let me say this. Oh, shame on me. I should be subscribed. First off, let me give some super props to Loud Guns, who's been a longtime member of DG360. I love Loud Guns. He's supported our channel. He is on our Wall of Fame. Thank you, Loud Guns. I love you, bro. I'm already going to like this, even though I might disagree with this. I appreciate this man's support. I love what he's done for the channel here. Thank you very much for what you do. Thank you, DY. 64 months. Wow. Thank you, DY. 64 months. Hold on a second. Can we get a calculator, Pepe? 64 months. Please, Pepe, calculate me. Okay, 64 divided by 12. Holy shit. 5.3 years of... Wow. Wow. Holy God. DY is the oldest of the OGs here. Thank you so much, DY. I love you, bro. I love you. And I also love Loud Guns, even though I probably am going to disagree with him here. But let's check out his content. Let's see why Star Citizen needs PvE instances and Loud Guns. If you're watching, bro, thank you for your support, bro. Really appreciate you for that. And you know what? When we listen, the algorithm that is you found Loud Guns. This is how we find content on this channel. You guys go out there and say, hey, check this out, DG. Check this out, DG. When we found Loud Guns, he did not have this many subscribers. Look at him go. 30,000 subscribers. Yes, sir. You're not gonna hate me. Wow. Good for you, bro. I couldn't be happy for you. I love it when people that we watch get super successful. Love it.
Hello and welcome back, or welcome to the channel. I'm Loud Guns, and in this vid I want to take a bit of time to talk a bit about the latest event coming with 4.2 and what it says about life in the sandbox. Just to be clear, this vid isn't going to be whining about PvP versus PvE, and generally I've been very supportive of PvP content in the game. In an open world, I love the danger that PvP provides. I can't help but think that after the experiences I've had in the 4.2 PTU, that for a lot of players what could be a fantastic experience is going to be gated and wasted, and how instancing of events like this might well be the answer. So if this sounds good to you, grab a cup of tea while I roll the intro, then let's get into it.
Okay, and we will get into this intro. I just want to read what Coob wrote, and I have a lot to say at the very beginning of this, and then we'll get back into the video. Coob says, the purpose of PvP in games should never be to allow socially maladjusted morons to just camp PvE sites to intentionally ruin the gameplay of other people just so they can attempt to feel whole inside. This is a problem that must be addressed in competent game design. I like the way that you ended that, Coob. This is a problem that must be addressed in competent, listen to me, competent game design. That is the perfect answer and exactly what I believe as well, Coob. PvP is going to exist in an MMO no matter what you do. I don't think the answer is to go about just making PvE instances. However, I do think with good game design and good AI reaction and NPC reaction time and good system security, where you get reactive influences coming in lawful-based systems coming in and just poning, as Coob says, socially maladjusted morons. Coob. That is the point at which that game design takes care of the problem. So we are not there yet. We are still in the very origins, baby toddler mode of security. We just got introduced to a second system that is lawless versus a system that is lawful. Now let me talk about this slightly a little bit more, and then we'll get into the video. Notice the areas that the new I call them dynamic events. Some people call them global events. I understand the differences between the two. I just happen to think that in areas where you have PvE and PvP, Coob is right. In the mode that we're in, at the very beginning of this, you're going to have a lot of PvPers come down and just camp this and farm this, and Coob is right. The game design does not allow to get those people out. However, that is not how it will always be. How the game will be designed, and I want everybody to know this, PvEers and PvPers, the way that the game will be designed in the future, it hasn't happened yet, is that all areas that will be PvE kind of only, okay, that will be seated in a lawful system where PvE people can go and gravitate to and not have to worry about getting farmed by large PvP orgs, because the actual system security and the devs will have designed a response against PvPers. And the UI and the tools in the game do not allow people to kind of figure out who's on what side. So everybody comes into these events and just shoots everybody. We've talked about this before. The problem is the timing. We are at a moment in this project where it's not happened yet. So let's go. Cool intro. Yes, Master. Wow, look at this. Way to go, Loud Guns. That's an awesome intro.
So let's start with a bit about the latest Stormbreaker event. This video actually started out as a guide project, but two things happened along the way. First, while we took down the worm and got a bunch of good footage, the PvP fights that it took to get there, while fun, made getting the clarity you want for a guide imperfect. And second, I saw this absolutely brilliant guide from Mr. Kraken, who's also put...
I love Mr. Kraken. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but Mr. Kraken is a wonderful content creator. I love Mr. Kraken. Why have we not watched a Mr. Kraken video? We should.
Together a series of fantastic one-page guides on the Stormbreaker event. So I'll link all of that down in the video description, and it would be really cool if you go and check out his channel.
That's awesome. Allowed Guns to do that.
Instead, in this video, I want to talk about how what is fundamentally, aside from a few bugs of course, great PvE content is being gated by PvP.
Yep.
And I know that some people have already stopped the video and are busy typing a comment calling me a Care Bear, but I'm hoping that the rest of you might hear me out.
And I can attest, Loud Guns is not a Care Bear. He really isn't. The way he approaches this project, and the reason that I have watched him for as long as I have, is because he's really rational. He's like he really is following this and has been following it for a long time, maybe almost as long as I have. And he approaches issues, I think, with like an adult kind of mindset when he's looking at game dev. I appreciate his input.
As I mentioned, I've got no problem with PvP
Limitless?
in general. And I think across large swathes of the game, the very possibility of piracy or PvP brings some much needed risk and danger to SC.
Absolutely.
It also acts as a balancer.
Yep.
If a particular loop gets imbalanced and generates extraordinary profits, then it will probably also create increasing attention and organic fights. However, what I'm increasingly noticing is that some experiences which are clearly designed with PvE in mind are instead turning into primarily a PvP event to decide who gets in on the loot. Just drawing on our most recent Enter the Storm experience last night, we put together a team of around 10 of us and headed to one of the Lazarus sites, arriving at one of the 3 transport depots. Now I figured it's PTU, and I didn't want to wade in there in an overly threatening manner or with any KOS rules of engagement. There's nothing to win here in PTU, our primary focus should be making sure the event works as intended. Obviously my secondary one was to head in and record some footage. But as soon as we touched down, we were in a gunfight with other players at the shuttle terminal, a bottleneck before even making it into the zone for the worm fight. And while we, due to superior numbers, won this bit of pew-pew, we missed the shuttle, and in the time we were waiting for the next one, either the same guys came back or another unrelated group turned up, in a Polaris, nose down blasting everyone and every ship they could see on the ground. This was just done to deny access to anyone to the site. Now, undeterred by this, we decided to call this bluff, and we won up to the Polarises with Idrises. Tellingly, these folks were still nose downing with their Polaris when we came and made our way all the way back from checkmate, having called in our cap ship. So having fought our way through the bottleneck, we made it to the other side, where the worm was already in action. We were just orienting ourselves, looking for the infirmaries to set our spawns when another gunfight erupts between us and other players.
Now, mind you, this is in the PTU. And the thing is Long Guns is absolutely right, man. People should be hitting the PTU as if like, how do things work? Where are the bugs at? Let me report these things. And you know they're not, because their style of play, again, I am PvP, very PvP oriented. So, you know, this is hard for me to admit, but this is the type of play that I like. However, would I just go guns blazing into the PTU like this? Probably. I'm not gonna lie. The problem is that there is no response. There's no response from NPC. The game design is not there for any accountability. There's no accountability for people that like to come in PvP at all. That is the real problem. And this is going to become more and more an issue. And the longer the Cloud Imperium ignores this, the more people are going to get pissed off, because you'll have the PvP community get pissed off because they feel like, oh, now we got to hold hands and everything's PvE, and you're going to gravitate towards a PvE mindset. And then you'll have the PvEers that get pissed off because of what Loud Guns is talking about. Again, Loud Guns is not a PvEer. He's plays both PvP and PvE. But like, you'll get people who have a mindset was like, well, this is farming and this is craziness. This is like old school raids and shit. And you know, the problem is in the fact that Cloud Imperium has not put any sufficient game design into security response. That's truly the problem. And the longer the Cloud Imperium goes without putting in an actual accountable response, the longer people are going to get angry. And when you're talking about the areas, let me tell you, this is in Pyro. Lawless. So to me, anything goes. It's lawless. Hathor, Stanton, lawful. That should have a lot of response. There needs to be some interaction. Some NPCs need to come in there, but we all know the real problem is in the server tech and the latency and the lag. And you see how NPCs are responding. You see how they're coming in like nuts. You see them not reacting correctly. You see lag, you see latency. You're seeing additional NPCs pile on one another. You're seeing not correct movements, animations. Everything's all hectic, and they can't get the NPCs to do what they want because the server tech is not able to handle the additional load. And it's like I've been saying since 2022. Stability. Where is the focus on what was told to us at the beginning of this year that I got so excited for? Do you remember how excited I got when Benoit Bessiger got on with Jared? And the reason why I keep pounding the table on stability, I keep talking about stability. This is the reason, guys and girls. This is the reason why stability always has to be number one. Because if they can't figure it out, if they can't get to the root of server tech, they are literally juggling right now. They're juggling knives on fire. They're literally juggling knives on fire right now, trying to seed in new events to get more people in. But at the same time, the more people that come in and the more NPCs that need to spawn and more events that happen, the more load. And the servers are like, they're trying so hard to bring new people in and balance it, and they can't get the NPCs. The reaction that you need cannot happen. That's why, again, that I keep talking about how they need to focus on stability. Stability is of the utmost importance. If anybody tells you anything different, they don't know what the fuck that they are talking about. Stability and focus on server tech is the pinnacle. It is the top. It is the most important thing. It filters down into all game design. It filters down into all the mechanics that you need, the reaction times from the NPCs. It filters into it all. And anybody that tells you anything different does not know game dev. They don't know what they're talking about.
I've got to say that for me, this was a lot of fun. It was crazy, the atmospherics of the rad storm made it incredibly cool, and probably one of my highlights of SC so far was catching a glimpse of an enemy flanking us thanks to a flash of lightning and gunning him down. However, eventually, once we had fought our way through to an infirmary and got our spawn set, effectively just enforcing a stalemate since both sides could now respawn, we agreed to ceasefire through global chat, teamed up and took down the Valakar. So I'm not going to say this was not fun. The PvP fight actually made the PvE section a little bit anticlimactic, particularly since we'd expended so much of our ammo fighting each other that large parts of the Valakar fight were spent roaching around to find other magazines. But the only reason that I personally was capable to experience this content was because I was in a position to bring 10 people capable of PvP.
Right.
And 2 addresses to fight our way through.
And you're going to have that. In the future, there are going to be areas in lawless-based systems where this is what you got to do. Because trust me, there's going to be plenty of things you can do solo. There's going to be plenty of things that you can do PvE where you don't have to worry about bringing anybody. It's out there right now. In the game, you can do a shit ton solo. There is so much to do solo right now. When it comes to these events, you're going to have to bring people in lawless systems. In lawful systems, you should be able to do this on your own. There will still be risk, but there needs to be a reaction. There needs to be a actual reaction from the NPC, and they cannot do it because server tech is limited and it will not allow the NPCs to do what it is that they should be doing since day one. We already saw them try to implement security. What happened to that? I can tell you. And it is because of what I'm telling you it is.
And I think it's quite telling when it comes to how this is likely to play out in the PvE.
How you doing, buddy? 30 months.
There is literally
32.
no incentive on a PTU build to take the PvP route. No reason to be camping the shuttle terminal, no reason to be KOSing other players, and no reason to be nose-downing in your Polaris, blasting anyone attempting to make it to the shuttle. And people still do it. But in the live environment, there is an incentive. The worm drops a finite number of fangs and pearls, which in turn can be used to unlock one of 4.2's new vehicles, the Atlas 60. And before CIG reversed course, this was going to be one of the only ways to continue to access the Wicklow line of missions. So orgs that can are incentivized to block other people out from the content. Because any of the loot that we let...
And guys, like I see Stunner and Koo bringing up really valid points, but I want you guys to understand, everybody, like here in the audience and everybody that's watching, there doesn't need to be a PvP versus PvE debate. There really doesn't. The devs need to design a system that balances this so that in lawful based systems, there's an actual response and it keeps it lawful, and PvEers can do PvE things and they can seed in PvE events. And in lawless systems, it's kind of anything goes, like here, right? That is what I'm trying to say. This whole PvE, PvP argument in a good designed MMO that is somewhat balanced, you know where to PvE, you know where to PvP, and you know where it's mixed. Just like in Eve. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, Damon.
Yes, you're not gonna hate me. Yes.
And that's what's going to happen. And I have been talking about this since the very beginning. For people that were upset that I was saying, oh, I want certain elements of Eve in the game, I don't think those people played Eve. It was very clear cut. Was it always perfect? No. But in high sec, boom, you popped instantly. You were an egg. Your ship blew up. You were in an egg. You might have killed the other person. You might have found a way to do it, but you were back in your pod. You were in an egg. And then in low sec, the response time was slower. And then in null sec, there was no response. You knew what was happening because the systems were literally coded for you. 1.0 to 0.0. 1.0 safest, fastest response time. And as you go down that scale to 0.0, it got slower and slower and slower and slower. And then it was 0.0 and there was like no response from any NPC whatsoever. And that's When I mentioned this at the very beginning, I said this was going to be an issue. Now, at the time when I was talking about security and the way I would like to see it designed, I didn't think we'd have these issues with the server tech. I thought back then that we would actually have been farther along than we are currently. That is not to say that I don't think that they're going to be able to do it. I do absolutely think that they will be able to get through over this hurdle. I absolutely do. It's just going to take time. And that's the struggle. That's where people are getting upset.
Somebody else take.
What's up,
At the end of the day is loot that we don't get. In all likelihood, if I were running this as an org or community event in a live environment, I would build blockading all 3 of the terminals into the plan. Putting one team with ships and marines on each site with KOS rules of engagement, while a central team farms the worm. Now, from the perspective of someone running a relatively large org, particularly one with a reasonable percentage of players who are up for some PvP or make it their main focus of the game, having objectives in game that take a big group to pull off and involve fighting is a good thing overall. I don't think that everything in this game should be achievable on your own, because that kills the incentive to enjoy group play, which comes with all sorts of other benefits. And I also don't think everything in the game should be PvE. PvP can be a lot of fun, and to my mind at least, other players provide the best sort of high risk. However, Stormbreaker, if you removed all of the PvP, would just be a great PvE experience. And my primary question here is, why are there a large swathe of the player base who are just denied this experience that's taken...
Okay, and with all due respect to Loud Guns, who I absolutely love, dude, I will say this: we need a few things in this order. Server tech so that NPCs can actually respond accordingly and have a base set of code that will come in and put down serious accountability for people in areas that are lawful. Can I get an amen?
Yes,
that's number one.
Amen. Yes.
That is the number one factor. So there's an answer for you, Loud Guns. The second thing that needs to happen is more systems. Now, we do have an additional system, and people say, like, DG, what does it matter if we have an additional system if we don't have the key number one factor? Good point. Yes, that's why I made that number one most important thing. But say we do have that. Okay, say we had the response times because the server tech was where we needed to be, and NPCs respond the way they're supposed to, and the lawful-based system and the lawless system. The second thing we need are more systems, lawful and lawless systems, and they need to seed these types of global events or dynamic events in lawful and lawless space. So, for instance, let's take the example we currently have. Hathor will be lawful, instant response, bam. You do something bad, you come in, your PvP, NPC come in and shit on your head. Okay? You're in a lawless based system, you're in Pyro, you're here at Stormbreaker, somebody does something, PvPs, and shoots you in the head, and you're like, oh shit, sorry. You're in a lawless based system. And that is the balance that we need. So those are your two most important factors. And that has to do with what Koob talked about at the very beginning, which is game design, which is why I loved Koob's last sentence there when he talked about the real solution to this is in the hands of the devs. The real solution to this all is time to get server tech where it needs to be, NPC responses that are appropriate and lawful based systems, and then to seed more events in lawful and lawless based systems based upon that. The longer it takes to get an appropriate, accountable response, the more people are going to argue about things that really aren't the issue. The PvE debate is a non-issue. You know why? Because in an MMO, game designers, game devs, they're going to balance it so that there's an appropriate response in a lawful fucking base system. So anyway, Loud Guns, love you, bro. I hope maybe some of these answers I helped you. I would love to watch the rest of this, but I feel like I've talked this one to death, and I apologize, Loud Guns, that I've talked all over this, and we are only a little bit over halfway this video. But let me tell you something, Loud Guns. I love your point of view. Thank you for helping out the DG360 community and being an alumni member. And you always have my support. And you always have the DG360 community here supporting you because you support us. And also, you make great content. I love his takes. I love that when he goes about his content, it's in an adult. He's not trying to argue with anybody. He's just putting it out there. And he does it in a way that I think is constructive. So bonus points to you, Loud Guns. You're still killing it, bro, and you deserve all the subscribers that you got, man. Keep doing what you do. You're killing it. You're killing it. I'm happy for you, man.